All right, let's get this thing streaming and going. All right, looks like everything is running except for my chat. Let me pop up my chat window here, guys. Woohoo! All right, got chat going. Let's move that over here. Hoping this is all working. Hoping this is actually sending to both, or to my Facebook page and to my YouTube channel at the same time. I'm trying something out here, so we'll see what happens. Nope, Facebook failed. Awesome. Well, I don't know why that is, but I'll turn it off for now, so that way it doesn't keep trying it and killing it and not working. There we go. All right, so hopefully YouTube is working. Let's try that real quick. Bear with me, folks. Yes, all right, that's live. Good. Okay, so today I'm doing something that I haven't done in the past, which is on this channel, really, which is working with Symfony. I'm not a super awesome Symfony guy. I know it enough. But I'm not, the world's greatest Symfony coder, or anything like that. But I like it for a lot of different things. I mean, to me, programming languages are just, they're tools. So the language and the frameworks and all those things are tools that you should kind of all learn and just use whenever you can. In this case, the thing I've been thinking about building and working with is just a little CLI tool for myself being just really lazy and wanting to make life with Homestead, Laravel Homestead, which is just their VM container Docker thing, just a little bit easier. I noticed this year that I found myself adding a lot of new projects and things to it, and I don't know, for some reason it was a little bit slow with my workflow, and it was just kind of annoying me that you're kind of typing in the same thing multiple times in multiple places, and then you have to restart or reprovision Homestead and all this stuff. So I was just kind of like, there's got to be a little bit of a better way to do this, I think. So I settled on this idea where I said, wouldn't it be great, and let me pull this over here, or actually let me grab this. My initial thought was, wouldn't it be great if I could do something like, Homestead new, and then type something foo bar.test, and that would do everything for me. That would correctly add everything to my host file, correctly add both the folders and the sites section to the homestead.yaml file, and then reprovision everything. So that's kind of where I came up with this idea. I was like, that's what I really just want to do. And then maybe you could even reprovision, run the little Homestead reload -- provision scripts. That way it actually runs everything and it's just ready to go. That's kind of what I wanted to be able to do. I've been testing out a few pieces of this. I know there's a couple of little things that won't exactly work the way I want it to, but I've settled on a couple ideas, and I figured let's just start building it and see what happens here. So okay, this is the idea. Now I can't use the word Homestead, I realize, because the word Homestead is being used by something else. So, and I don't really want that. I want just something a little bit shorter. So I settled on the idea of just having a CLI script that just says VM. So if I do VM new foo bar.test, it would create something in a foo folder named bar.test, and it would load everything correctly up. That's where we're at. That's what we're going to be working on today. Now, what I've got done so far is not much. I've just loaded in some stuff so we don't have to worry about trying to load up everything through Composer. But I created a folder called CLI. So that's just where all of my stuff is located. And there's a source directory with a commands folder in here. The vendor directory's already been pulled down. Editor config, git ignore, and my JSON, composer.json file. Just to show you what this is real quick, there's nothing crazy going on in here. It's just I'm auto-loading everything in the source folder, and I'm requiring the Symfony console, the League fly system, and Symfony YAML. Those are, I think, the only 3 things that we really need to do most of the work for this project. Yeah, I think that's gonna be everything. But if we need to pull in some other files as we get to it, we will. And the only other thing I should point out is this file right here. That's VM. This is I've just deleted the .php extension because I want to run it like this, where I say PHP VM, as opposed to having to say, PHP VM.php and then, run my new command or whatever. I just want to say VM. Eventually, I want to get to the point where I can just type VM new, but I don't know if we'll get to that in this video today, but we can definitely make that just work, and it's going to work globally. Trying to think if there's anything else I should explain or what I was thinking beforehand. No, I think that's it. You can see this is running already, so I can actually just type in php.vm or -vm, and this is just what generally comes out of the Symfony console stuff. So we're just running the application. There's no commands in here yet. There's nothing. It's just, we're newing up an application, which is a Symfony console application, loading in our autoloader and running the application. There's no commands yet. This is just the base, what everything does when you start it up. So that's it. That's the whole file. Now, I'm not going to be... This is just a little command line tool. I'm not going to be going crazy with classes and there's not going to be any events that we're emitting or anything like that. This is really just a very, very kind of simple CLI tool, but it can kind of teach us a few things, and we can kind of build this thing. And hopefully, if you guys find it useful, I'll throw this thing on into either GitHub or GitLab or somewhere. People can kind of download it later and play with it and use it too. For me, it's going to be kind of just a useful thing because I'm totally a lazy programmer. All right, so pull this chat somewhere that I'll see it. Hold on, guys. So I'll pop that chat over here. So at least I'll see if anybody. No, I won't, because it's not going to stay on the top, is it? Yeah, it's not. All right. Where am I going to put that? All right, there we go. I'm going to leave the chat hopefully on my other computer window, and hopefully I'll see it all when it comes out. All right, so the first thing we need to do here is just create an actual command. So the way you do this in Symfony is you just add a command to the application and then it just runs. So it's really just application add, and then we'll call it new site command. And yeah, that should be it. So now we just got to drop this up here. So we'll say use app commands new site command. Now, obviously we didn't create that yet, so let's just go in here, file, new site command.php. Oops. App commands now I know that this is just obviously a very basic thing, but I know there's got to be some more to this, but we'll come back to this in a minute. So that's just, we're gonna have a new site command in here that's gonna do that. I also know that I'm gonna need a config. So I'm going to put a config file in my source, just a file, not anything special. Again, this doesn't need to be and I already know what's going to be in here because I've been thinking about this. So Homestead path Homestead YAML file, and I'm going to break these two up into two separate things. We're going to need the hosts path hosts file. Yeah, that's fine. And probably going to need, oh yeah, we're going to need the VM IP. And then we're going to need, oops, the VM, what else are we going to need in there? I'm trying to think. So we have the VM, oh, a base path, yeah. So the base path is going to be wherever your VM likes to live. I should, in case you've never seen the Homestead file real quick, I should actually show that too. So let me go over here real quick, clear this out, and go to cd Homestead. So I'm just popping open my Homestead directory, and there is this file right here. Mine might look a little bit different than yours because I have these curly braces around here, but ignoring that, this is your general homestead.yaml file. It's just got an IP address for where everything is, what the provider is, where your keys are located, then a folders directory, sites, or a folder section, a site section, and a database section. So these are really the three areas that we want to map and that we want to work with. So the way it works is map in folders is where on your physical hard drive this thing is located. So in this case, it would be in your user directory / code. And we're mapping that to some space in the virtual box. So in this case, it wants to map to home vagrant code. Then there's another mapping that says, okay, homestead under sites, which is mapping homestead.test in this case to this folder, home vagrant code, and then public, because Laravel's public file code is in the public directory. So this wouldn't necessarily be needed if you're just doing an HTML thing or a React thing or something else. You could just have all of your code living in there, and that could be where your index file lives too. But Laravel obviously puts everything in the public directory. And that's it. And then these are databases. So you can just kind of keep adding a tick and adding, a new database name here like this. And then when you run Homestead provision, it will, or vagrant up provision, or whatever your command is, it will just provision a database for you. It'll also, and then it'll be looking to these places to actually build out all of these files. So as you can see, there's a lot of just like redundancy here, right? So we have a code directory mapping to this thing, then to this vagrant directory. Then we have this vagrant directory here being mapped to this. So all these things are obviously related. So that's why I'm thinking there's an easy way to do this with just the CLI tool. All right, and normally this is valid, but you may not see your code this way. Or if you're looking at your Homestead file, it's not going to look that way. It's going to look like that. So both are completely valid. This is just there's no difference. This way is more human readable. The other way works a little bit better with that's kind of how the YAML parsers are going to parse everything and put it together. So it'll work. But you know, if you just see yours looking like this and you're like, why does it have those braces around it? Don't worry about it. It's not that big of a deal. All right, where's this now? Okay, so for right now, I'm just going to configure this directly into this file. Eventually, I'm going to probably have to build up some sort of configuration thing that'll configure everything for us. But right now, I can just kind of say, all right, so this is Homestead path is going to be, I think it's users, my name, Homestead. Homestead.yaml. I think it's lowercase, right? No, uppercase. Host path, my host file is under etc, and the file name is just hosts. The VM IP is 192.168.10.10. And I actually work with things in home, vagrant, sites. That'll be my base path for everything. So that's looking pretty good. Like I said, we're going to have to make this thing work in a way that is more configurable than somebody having to go into a config file deep inside of this, because eventually I want this to be installed via Composer, so that way you can just, you know, and you globally install it in Composer. Then I don't want somebody to have to go into their global config, like their global Composer directory, and install all of this crap. That's kind of crazy. Or like edit this file. You should just be able to do that through the command line. But for testing purposes and for right now, this just works fine. Okay, so we have this new site command. We have we're gonna have to include our config stuff. So I'm gonna do that right here. I'm gonna actually just create a global config variable. There's better ways of doing this, but this is just what I'm gonna do right now. I'm gonna include, we'll do source slash, yeah, let's do source slash config.php. There we go. And I'm going to just pass this into here. Again, I'll probably refactor this a couple of times. I'm just trying to, at this point, this is, you know, think of this as your first pass in, if you were doing like DDD or something like that, where you're going to, you know, just, I forget what they call it, like, you know, set and spike or something like that, where it's just, the idea is just get it up, get it running. Let's see that we can actually achieve our goals, and then go back and, you know, either throw it all out or refactor it, you know, and move on from there. So this is, just think of that like this. So if you're seeing anything that you're like, oh my God, what are you doing? Why are you doing it this way? Relax, we'll clean it up. But that said, again, I am not a super Symfony guru. So if anybody out there knows Symfony and you're like, dude, don't do it that way because you'll blow up the world, feel free to let me know, because like I said, I'm not, I know it enough to be able to work in it, but I'm not necessarily the best. So, and with that, I'm also going to make sure that everything is running okay on my side here, on my streaming stuff. All right, cool. Okay. So new site command, that's where we're at right now. We're going to try to get that to actually run. What do we need to make a command? Well, there's a few Symfony components that we have to pull in. So let's go into that and actually make this thing run. So we're in app commands. All right, app commands, new site command. Well, the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to actually extend command, which is a Symfony thing that we're extending here. So let's go over here and so we're going to say use Symfony, oops, component console. Yeah, that's we're getting there. Command, there we go. Symfony component console, input interface. input argument. Should be output too, right? Oh, there should be one more input. Input. Ooh. What is that? Input option. Because I know I'm going to need these options and stuff. Output. I think it's just output. Is there an output? Yeah, there's output interface. It's probably going to be output interface. Yeah, that's looking good. So these are the things that are needed for Symfony. I'm going to just pull this, make this thing run. There's other commands or other things we're going to need to, but I won't pull those in just yet. Let's make this thing run correctly. So for this to really run, all you actually need here for Symfony is a config. So we're going to have a protected class, or not class, function. Protected function, execute. Input interface, input and interface, output. That's really all that's needed for a command, a CLI command in Symfony to run. This is just, it's a configuration area where you actually configure what the command is going to look like to make it run, and then an execution area where it's going to run everything and execute. We'll probably create a couple other protected or private methods for this thing to actually use, but for right now, this is a decent spot to start. All right, how does this thing work? Well, this, and there's a whole bunch of different things. Now, if you go into the Symfony code book, like there's a whole section on here on CLI stuff. Like I didn't just pull this out of thin air. I'm kind of like running through some of this stuff here. Let me show you it real quick. Console commands. So this is, you know, one of the great things about Symfony is their documentation is really good. So they have all of this stuff in here about how to create a command, and they're showing some of this stuff like, all right, here's how you configure, here's all the different settings and stuff, how to make it work. So I've pulled a bunch of stuff, I've gleaned a bunch of stuff from here. So that's where I'm getting these commands. I didn't just memorize these things out of thin air. So they use this kind of thing because there's a lot of different commands that we're going to have to run here. So we have set name. We're going to call this new. Set description. It's a new site in Homestead. That's just a description, obviously. Set help. So this one just kind of sets the help command, like what it's going to say in help. This. Homestead. Yeah. Now, any arguments or options that we're going to want. Now, there's a couple of options that are arguments that I know we're going to want. So again, going back over to the CLI section here, I said what I want is PHP VM new, and then some sort of folder and some sort of folder and some sort of URI. That's the basic structure. I need these two things at the very least to make this run. So those are arguments in parlance of the Symfony console. So we'd say add argument. And the argument here, so the structure is what? So it's folder, here's the name, this is the variable that it's going to go into. It's folder, input, input argument, and yeah, it's required. This one's required. And then give a description of it right here. That's what this section is. So add arguments. We'll call it URI or URL, whatever, it doesn't matter. This one is again required. Required. URI for your local code. Okay, so that's a good starting point. Now, I also know that I want to be able to control the databases. So you don't necessarily always need to add a database. So we could make this different. What I would do here is I'd want something like this, where I'd say, DB equals, and then, foo, something like that. Oh, and we're also going to need the option for appending a directory structure, a directory to the end of our where our code lives. So our code may live in a folder called foo/bar, but as you saw with the case of Laravel files, the public index.php file lives in that public folder. So we'll need a way to basically say, yeah, this is the folder, but in order for it to be, but the public directory is inside it here. So I think we'll have another option for pub directory. So we'll say, pubdir equals, and then you can say foo. Yeah, I think that's probably the structure we'll want for this. And again, those things are optional, so they're not, we don't need to add them. So we'll make them add option. And the option will be database. Yeah, I'll be a little verbose here. The shortcut can't be null, or the shortcut is null because we want an input. I think it's input option. Yeah, value, but one, yeah, because so the way this works is an input option, and then we're going to say a value is required. And this is so the idea here is that why we're saying what this value required means is just there's sometimes you can have like a switch where you can do like VM, foo, yes, and that's it. So there's no value. The value is just the fact that you put the switch there. We need to have it so that way, like you can't, in this thing, you can't just say VM new database. That's not going to work. That's not going to do anything. That's going to, we need a name for the database. So, I mean, I guess I could just have it something like, VM new folder URL.test and then foo. And then that just means that's the database. Now I'm going to be explicit here. I guess we could do it either way. We could just make it. Well, no, because I think it wouldn't. I don't know if it would understand that. So that probably wouldn't work. Never mind. forget I said that. All right, and then the last option is add option. I think pubdir is fine. Pubdir. Null. Input option. Value required again, and this is all right. Cool. So that looks pretty good here. So we have our two options. We have our two arguments. We have our new, we have our command name. This should function at this point. Let's see if we broke anything. Beta layer, uncalled class, command new site. Oh. Composer dump auto load. Let's try that again. Oh, still broke it. Okay, let's see. Past Symfony command. Blah, blah, blah. Stack trace. All right. Hold on. First, let's check this out and see what we did here. What did we break? Uncalled type. Argument 1 passed the Symfony console command. Must be of type string. Null given. Why is that? Just not liking the fact that we don't have a... I don't think this is right, but we'll try it. Input argument not found. Okay, well, argument is not a thing, so that would be why. Oh boy, that's a little long. Put argument. There we go. Okay. Now, that didn't do anything, obviously. The only thing it did was it just, we now have this new listing for new, creates a new site. So now we can do PHP VM new, and it's not going to do anything because it's saying there's nothing here. We don't have any of our arguments, which we're requiring. So again, I can say PHP VM new folder URI. We're not doing any checking on this. We're just running it to make sure it works, and it worked. I mean, it didn't do anything, but hey, there we go. Nice starting point, right? Cool. Okay, so now it's actually getting to the meat of this thing. So what do we want this thing to do? Just to kind of pseudo code this thing out, let's think this through for a minute here. What is this actually going to do? Good question. Okay, so the first thing I think it's going to do, it's going to find and open our homestead.yaml file. Parse the YAML into something PHP can read, add folders, sites, and database to the PHP. Then convert back to YAML. Save YAML back to file. Then it's going to have to do the same thing with a host file, right? So then it'll be open host file, add new entry, save. Okay, so this, now my host file is under the control of the superadmins, which means this command is going to have to be run by the, I'm going to have to do a sudo to actually make this work. So yeah, to get it to save this last step here, realistically we're going to have to do sudo VM new, and then everything. I'm okay with that. Again, this is not a command that this shouldn't be running on your live server for any reason. So I don't really, I don't know. Maybe somebody would consider that like a bad practice, but this is something I'm running locally. It's not supposed to be run anywhere else. So I don't think I care that that's the way it's going to have to be, but that is the way it's going to have to be. But that also means, yeah, we're not going to be able to have any way of provisioning the server through here. So what I mean by that is if I do, let me clear this so it's at the top here. So we're over here at the top. I can do Homestead. If you're using Homestead, you know this. You can say Homestead reload provision. That's the command that'll run it. And if I run it right now, it'll actually, do what it needs to do. I'm breaking it because I don't need it to do that. I could also, from the Homestead directory, I could do, that's really just kind of a mapping to Vagrant reload provision, where Vagrant is, where we're running it inside of the Homestead directory to do that. They're both essentially the same thing. Problem is, I can't do sudo Homestead reload. That's going to fail. See, it can't find that command. So the command exists, it just doesn't exist under that user. So there might be a way that I can change my system to actually allow it to use sudo, but it doesn't right now. So yeah, that's fine. That's not a big deal for me that this won't work. So essentially what I'll have to do in general, but to use this, is at the end of the day we'll type VM new blah, whatever that whole thing is, and then after that you have to type in, once it runs the command, then you have to type in Homestead reload provision, and then it'll just run. So that's fine. That's okay for me, with me. All right, so let's make this thing actually work now. So let's pull out, let's pull in some things that we're going to need now that I know we're here. So let's pull in our YAML component. That's the first thing that we're obviously going to need. Use Symfony component. Nope, not console. It should be YAML. And YAML. I know we're also going to need the league stuff, so I pulled in before my fly system. So those are the two guys that we're going to need in here now. So Symfony, or not Symfony, sorry, this is league. Fly system, file system. Fly system, adapter, local. We're not going anywhere else. We just need it to run locally. All right. So the adapter is just where it's going to where our directory structure is located. Like what directories are we actually trying to get into? So this could be Dropbox. It could be Amazon S3. It could be anything like that. But for us, the adapter is just our local file system. That's all we're working out of. Okay. Oh, that's why this thing was breaking too before. Config. Private config. This config. All right. So now we have our configuration variables in here. That's why the whole thing was breaking, because I was pulling in the configuration stuff and I didn't have it, and I wasn't doing anything with the constructor. Okay, so we have our config files. Great. And we're done. No. All right, what do we need now? Let's go over here. And we can actually do most of this stuff, most of the YAML stuff really can get done right in, right with the YAML parsing. So Homestead parse, and this is just like whatever the file is. So we just need a path to our file. So this is where we're using our configs. So I can say in here, this config Homestead path dot. Oh, I don't think I put a. I gotta look at my config file. Okay. A little verbose, but just we're pulling in the path slash homestead.yaml. So that's just that file. That'll parse and pull our stuff into our YAML into an array for us. So if I just var dumped right here, PHP VM new. Users, oh. YAML Homestead, it did not parse that. That should have been, unless my Homestead file is busted, that should have been, is my path wrong? Let's check it out. I think my pathing might be wrong here. Let's go to Homestead. Homestead.yaml. And if I open this, all right. Oh, that's the problem. I'm saying YAML parse as if this is a thing. There's two commands. There's parse and parse file. Parse file is the one I want. So YAML parse is just, it's assuming this is the, like literally this string is YAML that it's trying to parse. I want YAML parse file, so that way it actually goes to this directory. Oh God, where's my code located? CD personal? I think that's where I put it. CD CLI? Yeah. All right, now if I run PHP VM, oops, PHP VM new, oh, foo bar. There we go. That's all the stuff. So yeah, it turns it into a nice little associative array with everything we need. So this gives us everything we really kind of need to just kind of manipulate these files around now. So what do we want to do now? So we want to, all right, so we've parsed it, we've opened our file, we've parsed it into something that PHP can read, add folders, sites, and database to the PHP, and then convert back to YAML. All right, that's easy enough, right? So now it's just, let's do the folders first, right? So we can do that right in here. We'll probably clean this up a little bit, but if we wanted to do it right here, we could just say, what? Well, we say, well, we have the Homestead YAML file right here, so we could just say YAML Homestead sub folders. Yeah, let's do folders first. We're going to be adding a new array to this, so this is the same. We can do that. Is equal to new array map, and that's going to be something, and then 2, and that's going to be something. So the map, this is really just, this is the folder name. So this is our argument folder 2, and this is our, so map, this is where it's physically located on our hard drive and where we want to put it on our virtual drive. So we're going to say this config because we want to put this in our VM base path dot slash dot, and then the same folder name. So I'm doing a convention here, obviously. If you want to, this might be something you don't want to do. I don't know why, but I mean, you might have some sort of way that you want to structure virtually your folder, your virtual path, in which case maybe this won't work for you. Maybe you need to add a third argument of some sort into this thing, but assuming you're okay with just using whatever the folder is on your physical hard drive to map it somehow to your virtual hard drive, this should work. All right, so that drops that stuff into the folder section. Then we can say YAML Homestead sub sites, and we're just kind of doing the exact same thing here. And now this is, we want to map get arguments URI, oops, to, it's literally to this. And the database. Okay, so the database is just a little bit different, right? Because we have to say if you've actually added this, because we don't know if it's necessarily there, right? So all we have to do for that is just check for the option first. So we can say, I think if this get option database, I think that'll return true, or I think it'll return null. What does it return if it doesn't exist? I think it returns null. So let's leave it at that for 1 second. Yeah, it wouldn't be false, so it's probably going to be null. And then we can just say YAML Homestead databases. It's called databases, yeah. It's equal to database. Yep. So that should do that, and that's just another single option that gets added to that. Yeah, it's adding another array of string foo. Good. All right. So that should take care of that for us too. Oh, we do need to add to this site thing if we have our option for our folder for our public directory. So let's check this thing out first. I want to make sure this part is actually working. I think this is, I don't remember what this returns. I think it returns false. It might return null. I could just look it up, but I'm being lazy. I'm just going to run the code and see what happens here. Foo bar. Oh, it's not going to do anything yet. So let's actually just dump that to the screen. And it explodes. What exploded on us? Get argument. Uncalled, undefined method. Get argument. Which get argument did I like? Line 54. Oh, I'm using this, dude. Okay. Yeah, none of that's gonna work. Okay. It's not this. It's part of input. Silly. So input get argument. this config, because that's our config file. I should just find all of these. Input. And that means also the same is going to be true for this option here. Get option is part of input. Save. All right. Now let's try that again. There we go. All right, cool. And yes, it does return null. So okay, so what we can see that it did here was that it did add a new array mapping bar to home sites foo, which is correct, and then it added, you know, foo to, you know, home sites, home vagrant sites foo. So yeah, that part all worked. Now if we add the database in, let's just double check that that's actually working. Hello. Awesome, adds that in there too. Great. That's actually really simple. Now the oh yeah, this thing. Sorry, let's add that thing. Let's correct this thing too. So we have the other option in here, so we can say if input get option pubdir okay, so here's what we're going to do. Cancel that. Not var. This is starting to get a little bit messy here, but we can see what's going on here. So all I'm doing here is we're saying our to location is set to this VM base path to the folder. I'm actually now going to bring this up here because this makes sense. To location. So we have the same to location. Now we're saying after this option, okay, is there pubdir here that does this public directory thing exist? If it does, add it to our to location. Now this is a little hinky code because we're kind of overwriting stuff. I don't like doing this and then adding it to here and then saying, oh, the same thing, we're going to overwrite it now and potentially add more stuff to it. This isn't great code doing it this way, but just to kind of get the point across that this is going to work, we'll do it for right now, and then I'm going to refactor this after we get it to save. So this should be okay right now. It should actually add that. So let's double check it that it actually works. So we do database hello. You know, hold on, let me clear this. Pubdir. Public, we'll just call it, that's fine. Okay, so we have foo mapped to foo bar, which is our URI, mapped to sites, foo public, which is what we wanted. Awesome. And let me clear again, and let me do this. Let me remove that. Awesome, and it's mapped to foo correctly. So yep, that's exactly that. It's working exactly the way we want it to. Sweet. Again, we'll clean this up because there's a little much in here right now, but for right now, that's looking decent. Okay, so convert the YAML back to YAML and save the file. All right. and then go into the other stuff. Okay, so, well, we're not going to save just yet. I don't want to, and here's why. I want to do all the conversion of the YAML to YAML and correctly add everything to where it needs to be. Then I want to open up the host file and get that ready. And then after we have our host file ready to go, ready to be saved, and our database and our YAML file ready to save, then we'll save them both at the same time. I'm kind of thinking of it as like a transaction in a sense, where if something goes wrong in the parsing of the Homestead file or the parsing of the host file, I don't want half of it to get saved. So I don't want to, let's say we get through the YAML file and it's perfectly fine, and then something screws up with in the host file. Now you have this code in the host file or in the YAML file that doesn't have a matching thing inside of the host. So we'll leave the actual saving to the very end. So this is actually going to be save both hosts and YAML. So I think that's more what we're actually going to do now. So, okay, I think that makes better sense to me. All right, so let's, I'm just trying to think this through a little bit, make sure that makes perfect sense. And that seems the right approach in this case. We don't want to do that and then find out that we've somehow nuked the whole thing, and then you have just like, then the files are kind of inconsistent and wrong. All right, that's good for the YAML stuff for right now. Now let's go into the host file. So the host file, obviously we're not using YAML. We're going to be using, this is where we need our league file system stuff. Excuse me. All right, so I never remember this exactly, but I think we can do file system. We'll call it FS, new file system, and then I think it needs a new local adapter, and then this is the path to where we actually want it to go. So in our case, we want this to be not the current directory. So if I did something like dir, it's going to go out of this folder. So I actually want it to be from the local user, I believe. No, I don't need to, I think I can just say this. Let's just, this, yeah, config hosts path. I think I can just do that, and I think it'll find it because I did put the slash in there, so I think it's okay. We'll see what happens in a second. Now, all right, so that's our setting up our file system. FS. Let's grab our host file and see if this works. Hosts is equal to FS read, and then we're going to read our file. So this is from our this config host file. That should do our reading. Dump. All right, let's see if that actually works. Hey, there we go. Cool. Yeah, it's got a whole bunch of crap in here, but that's other than that, it worked. That's the host file, so it did actually read it correctly. Great. So we have the host file. Now we just need to add to it, and that should be it. Add to it, and then we'll save it all together. So how do we do that? All right, well, we just do hosts is equal to, we're going to say hosts again, Now in this case, I know I need to do, oh, I actually need to do this. I've heard people say don't use this. I think that the argument is that you should sometimes just use the /n if you know, like whatever you know the operating system happens to be, use that. I just use PHP end-of-line thing to whatever it happens, like whatever it happens to be. The system I'm using this on right now is Mac, so it's I think get away with just saying /n or whatever, but we're not gonna do that. I'm just gonna use the PHP end-of-line thing. This should be fine. So we're adding an extra end of line just to do a carriage return, so that way everything is on the next line. Hosts equal dot equal. I could probably do this all in like one simple line, but I'm not, because that drives me crazy when people do that. Like you can't, it's unreadable. So I'm trying to make sure that anybody who's looking at this could actually read what the heck it is I'm writing. This config. This is hosts. Oh, no, VMIP? Yeah. So we want the IP address, space, nope, URI. All right, and that's it for the host file now. So that'll add a new line, and then whatever the heck we have here. So our VMIP, which is coming again directly from our config file. I think it's called VMIP. Yeah, VMIP, VM base path, host file. Good. All right. That will add to our IP, or yeah. So this will add to our host file. Now all we got to do is the saving portion of this stuff. So this is actually going to necessitate a second file system now that I'm thinking about it, because yeah, I think so, because we're going to have to, unless, oh no, the YAML parse thing should be able to parse, put our parsed file back. Yeah, I think it will do that for us. Okay, so maybe we only need the one. We'll see. My concern here is just that we might need to have another host file to actually drop the YAML in the thing. But no, there should be there's like a YAML file, YAML dump. There you go. Okay, I was gonna say drop file or something like that. YAML dump. And then Laravel Homestead. That will take care of dropping in the, I didn't call it Homestead, yeah. And then we need fs put the path. So the path of this file is host file. And we're just gonna, yeah, we're just overriding it with just hosts. Yep, and that should take care of it. So let me save this. Let me open up my host file real quick. etc/hosts and delete a whole bunch of crap in here. Yeah. Yes, see, it wants me to save it as admin. Okay. All right, so now this shouldn't work if I just type in VM. Yeah, new foobar. If I do foobar.test, let's just say this is not going to work. It should throw a bunch of errors. Yeah, now this error might be something else, but Permission denied. Yeah, that's the error. Okay. So basically what happens is it got to this point and it said, nope, can't do that. But I think, so this is where we're going to have to do a little bit of checking because oh no, good. Okay, it knew it couldn't open it, so it didn't remap to this file. It didn't add anything. Nice. Okay. Let's try it again under sudo. Okay. No, obviously we don't have any text in here telling us anything, but that's fine. We did not. Let me close that out. Ooh, it blew up our... Alright, our Homestead file is dead. Well, that sucks. And let's see what else we did here. Did we at least get the host file right? Sweet. Okay, well, it did write bar.test. That's good. So that part worked. Our YAML dump didn't work. Let's see. What did we do wrong there? Pretty sure it's just YAML dump, and then you just... Oh, no. You see? I don't... Oh, this is not YAML. That would be part of the problem. This is actually just... That's why it didn't write it, because this is not YAML at this point. This is... yeah, this is just a file. This is a... Is there like a 2? When supplied with an array, will do its best to convert to YAML. Oh, okay, no, it should work, and it didn't. All right. YAML Homestead. So this should have done... Oh no, I'm being silly. So yeah, this probably converted it, but I don't think this actually puts it anywhere. So yes, I do need another... Okay. All right, so I do need another another file system essentially here to do this whole thing correctly. All right, so just to make things easier, we're going to call this fs hosts. And this one we're going to call fs homestead. Oh, and we need to change the local path from, oh goodness, from local to, I guess, to config homestead path. And this config Homestead YAML, comma. All right, so all we did here is I just need another file system. So that put the dump it's half of what I expected it to do. For some reason, I thought it would just dump it back into a file, which doesn't even make any sense based on the function signature here, if you look at it. But essentially what this is just doing is it's taking the array and converting it back into YAML, and then we have to actually put it somewhere, which makes sense. trying to clean this up a little bit. Now we'll leave it there for right now. Okay. That will not do what I expected right now because my Homestead file has been nuked, right? Yeah. So let's go over to this guy right here. This is just I'm in the Homestead folder under resources. They have like this homestead.yaml file, which I think is just a copy that it drops in. Like this is the copy that it uses to generate a Homestead file for you initially. So I'm copying this Homestead back and I'm taking that over to all right. Okay. Let's see what happens. All right, nothing is a good sign. Let's go over to our homestead.yaml. Boom. Foo and foo mapping correctly, even added the database to it. So yeah, that's it. That did it. Now again, what you're seeing here that it did was only take the things that it could recognize. So if I refresh, I don't think I can refresh this, but there was a bunch of stuff that was commented out. If you needed some stuff commented out, this may not be a good approach for you because it's going to just delete it because it doesn't recognize those things. But this works. Now I have just a nice simple command that'll update this file for me without having to do anything. And we could add more data to this if we really wanted to. Like you can kind of blow it out and say, okay, well, let's look at this Homestead file. Maybe there's a reason why I would want to update my keys path. Maybe on a different computer you have it different places. You can add all this stuff in. You can just, with the switch where the keys are located, you can change the provider. You can change the IP, change the memory. We can do that in another command. So we could kind of like make this more. We could add extra sections, so we could add back in that like anything that was missing from here. What was it, like the Blackfire stuff? Yeah, so we could add like the ports and the Blackfire. Like we could add all this stuff in if we wanted to. I don't need it. I don't use that stuff locally, so this is more than enough for me. So now these folders don't exist, so it's not going to work. But this should be everything that we need to actually get it to work. So do we want to test it now, or do we want to refactor? We should actually test it first to make sure that everything is actually working as expected, and we'll reprovision our server. So let's find something that actually exists on my computer that I can actually do this with. So let's see. Let's go with, do I have anything under? Web design. I think assignment 2. Let's make sure that this file is actually something. Reveal and Finder. Perfectly blank. Okay, that's not going to work. All right. Let's try another file that has something in it. No. Solutions. Come on, I know I got homework somewhere in here. There we go. Perfect. I just need to see something run on here. So this is part of my class for my students. I was just showing them how like responsive stuff works. All right, so this is a real folder. This exists deep into my system. All right, well that works. So now let's go well, I'm gonna actually go over to it. CD solutions, CD homework 3. That's fine. So this is just the path that I need. Oh, you know what? It's not going to work. I just realized. I'll have to take that whole thing. That's fine for right now. But I just realized that the directories that it's setting is actually going to be incorrect. Yeah, this is mapping, user directory code, and I just did foo. So this won't work unless I take that tilde with me. So I think that's fine for just testing purposes, but we're gonna have to change that. Where is that code now? Okay, let's go back over to here. And let's do PHP VM, that whole thing, to foo.test, and that's it. We don't need anything else. Oh. New. Ooh, something broke. What did we do? Oh, permission denied. Okay. So there's a whole bunch of little cleanup things we got to do here, but that should have added everything. Let's double check the folders. See, what it did now was it added 2 because it failed on the first one. So yeah, so there's definitely a little bit of cleanup work we're going to have to do here. Should add a delete function too, because these things are not real. But that's looking okay. Let's see if this actually, and then let's test out if it actually, added the entry correctly to hosts. Foo.test, cool. I'm gonna delete these tests. That's not my password. There we go. Okay, now let's just do Homestead reload provision, and let's see if that works. This might actually take a bit to run, but assuming everything works in this case, then we should be able to go to that file and find, we should be able to go to whatever I said, foo.test, and it should be able to run from there. Then there's a couple of cleanup things we're going to do, or that I need to do to this thing. I don't think I'm going to do it on the live stream because it's about noon at this point in my time, so I'm going to end this video here. But the next couple of things that I'm going to do is probably just clean up this file a little bit right now. This is kind of funky. It's got a lot of stuff in here that I don't like. That we can probably just clean this up and make it a little bit less verbose. We can definitely kind of move things into their own little private functions and just make it a little bit cleaner. We'll also have to do a bunch of checking of stuff, right? So if we can't write to the host file because this isn't under sudo, then you shouldn't also write to the homestead.yaml file. That would be one thing that we want to do. Then the other thing would be, if all this stuff already exists in the files, we're probably going to want to make sure that we don't like add it back to the file again. And again, that'll have to be some sort of transaction check where it says, hey, you've already added foo.test to the homestead, to the config file. What are you doing? This is already here. Maybe it's just asking the question. Maybe then we add something where we say, do you want to overwrite this? And then it just overwrites it and allows it to be overwritten. I don't know. There should probably be a delete command. We should definitely have some sort of way of saying, newing up like a fresh installation of this stuff where we're editing the config file. So I think I'll make a couple more videos on this stuff and throw them up here later that we're not actually doing this live. But yeah, I think this is a pretty good start. And let's see now that that's done. Yes. Oh, I'm in the wrong screen. But foo.test, which is what we set up, and it's running the actual file. So awesome. So that's the intended thing, is to just make my life a little bit easier, that I can just kind of type in these things and run it. So awesome, that worked. Yeah, just a few little cleanup thingies that we got to do. I'll push this code up to GitHub, and I'll put the link in my YouTube channel so that way you guys can see it. Maybe I'll tweet the link out too. So that way if you're watching this video at a later date, you can actually go back and look at all of this code and pull it down and play with it. And then we'll probably we'll get some more commands in here that'll make it run a little bit smoother. Then then it's a matter of just pushing this into Composer and making it actually run as a global command, so you can actually just use this anywhere from your system. You can just type in vm new, and it'll create the new site for you, and then you just run homestead up provision or whatever, and then it'll work. But awesome, thanks guys for watching, appreciate it. If you liked the video, please, if you're on YouTube, please hit the little like button. If you are on Twitch, which I'm streaming on there too, I think there's a thumbs up. I don't know. There's a million different things. But if you got it, if you like the stuff, just hit the buttons, and that really helps. Thanks, guys.